here's what we're finding out. Here's what the information is. Boeing's whistleblower, John Barnett, found dead in the United States. According to reports, a former Boeing employee known for raising concerns about the firm's production standards has been found dead in the United States. John Barnett had worked for Boeing for 32 years until he retired in 2017. But in the days before he died, he had been given evidence in a whistleblower lawsuit against the company. Boeing said it was saddened to hear that Mr. Barnett had passed. The Charleston County coroner confirmed that he died yesterday. What did he die from? What did the man die? Just days after he testified. Just a few days after, he then ends up dead. Well, they say the death was self-inflicted wound. The 62-year-old had died from a self-inflicted wound yesterday, according to police, and they were still investigating. The coroner says, but Mr. Barnett had worked for the U.S. Boeing plane giant for 32 years until he retired, 2017. From 2010, he worked as the quality control manager at the North Charleston plant, making the 787 Dreamliner a state-of-the-art airliner used mainly on long-haul routes. Now, in 2019, John Barnett had told the BBC that under pressure, workers had been deliberately fitting substandard parts to the aircraft on the production line under severe pressure. He also said he had uncovered serious problems with oxygen systems, which could mean one out of four breathing masks would not work in an emergency. He said soon after starting work in South Carolina, he had become concerned that the push to get new aircraft built meant the assembly process was rushed and safety was compromised, something the company is denying. He later told the BBC that workers had failed to follow procedures intended to track components through the factory, allowing defective components to go missing. He said in some cases, substandard parts had been removed from the scrap bins and fitted to the planes. They were already substandard. They didn't meet they didn't meet the right size, or the holes drilled in the wrong place, or the piece was cut wrong, whatever. They would throw them in the scrap bin, but when they run out of parts, they would go back to the scrap bin and get the parts that had already been discarded and fit them onto the planes that were being built to prevent delays on the production line. He also claimed the test on emergency oxygen systems due to be fitted for the 787s showed a failure rate of 25%. John Barnett was a former quality control manager there in Boeing, and he's alerted the other managers while he worked there of his concerns, but there was no action taken. Boeing has denied his assertions. However, a 2017 review by U.S. regulators, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, did uphold that some of Mr. Barnett's concerns. They found the documentation. It established that the location of at least 53 non-conforming parts in the factory was being used, and that they were considered lost. Boeing was ordered to take immediate action. But on the oxygen cylinders issue, the company said the 2017 it had identified some oxygen bottles received from the supplier that were not deploying properly. But it denied that any of them were actually fitted onto the aircraft. But John Barnett says, yes, they were. And he was the quality control manager. After retiring, though, he embarked on a long-running legal action against Boeing. He accused it of denigrating his character, hampering his career because of the issues he kept pointing out. Charges rejected by Boeing. At the time of his death, though, Barnett had been in Charleston for legal interviews linked to the case. Let me say that again. At the time he died, he was in Charleston for depositions, for legal interviews. He was to have more interviews to go. Last week, he gave some formal depositions, which he was questioned by Boeing's lawyers. He was cross-examined by his own counsel, and he was due to undergo further questioning when he did not appear Saturday. Instead, they found him dead in his truck in the hotel car parking lot with a gunshot to the head, which now authorities are saying was self-inflicted, or at least it looked that way. So my question is, have we heard this story before? And I would like your comments below. Are you suspicious of the cause of death to John Barnett? Or should we take the authorities and the Boeing company at its word? Now, we know Boeing just recently had that plug come just in mid-flight, just ripping out of the plane. Okay? It's a miracle nobody got sucked out. If anybody would have been not in their seatbelt, they'd have been out that window. Okay? Then just 2 days ago, a tire went flying off of a Boeing jet as it was taking off. 2 days before that, we had a door that came off. Didn't completely blow off the plane, but it came open as the plane was in the air. We've had more time after time. I mean, it seems like it's every other day situations developing. Or is it because of substandard quality control? Or are we dealing with something? Is there potential sabotage that's been going on in some of the Boeing plants? Or is John Barnett correct that substandard parts, missing bolts, wrong-sized parts, defective breathing apparatuses, oxygen mask, and some other non-functioning equipment used on these planes to keep up with the demands? Something's not adding up.